Well, this weekend, the Manitoba Métis Federation will hold what is being called an extraordinary General Assembly. Red River Métis citizens are gathering to vote on the ratification of the Red River Métis Self-Government Recognition and Implementation Treaty. The MMF says this modern-day treaty is the single most important decision the Métis have made in more than 150 years. For more on what it all means, we're joined by MMF President David Chartrand. President Chartrand, thanks for being with us. For starters, can you tell us what this modern-day treaty will mean for the MMF and Red River Métis?
Well, we've done 3 months now of consultation, meeting thousands and thousands of our citizens, and I tell you, Dennis, it's been hard pulling in so many occasions throughout our people. A lot of people crying, joyful, excited, just overwhelmed with finally getting this treaty taking place in Canada today. The modern day treaty will really change the essence of the relationship we have with Canada. It'll start the formation of questioning without doubt anymore that Métis are Section 35 rights holder, Red River Métis of the prairies. So this is about the Red River Métis and our homeland in the prairies. And it'll really start to solidify and legally solidify without question, even though we believe ourselves that the Constitution is already there to protect us. This will now clarify without question that this is no longer a question for anyone in this country.
Like you mentioned, in some of the correspondence leading up to this extraordinary General Assembly, it mentioned overwhelming support from citizens for this. What will this deal mean for the average citizen?
Well, you know, that's a good question, Dennis, and that's one of the questions that have been posed by many of our citizens. What does it change in the future? Like, you know, if you look at the Métis and the struggles we face, right, we have the highest chronic illnesses in Manitoba, for example, just using the province of Manitoba. And we did a 4-year study on that. It showed that we're in the worst healthcare than anybody else, surpassing First Nations on chronic illnesses. And the number one issue is because Canada and Manitoba both resist any relationship with the Métis based on Section 35, arguing that's not the responsibility of the jurisdiction. So even though we won the 2016 Daniels decision, Supreme Court of Canada, saying the federal government have fiduciary responsibility, held has not changed. And so we are now assuring ourselves, and the Prime Minister has now assured us, that he's going to negotiate a specific Métis health legislation in Canada. So it will mean, Dennis, now that in the future, that programs that we have delivering housing, education, will be solidified under the treaty and become sort of permanent programs in Canada. And we would no longer have to report like a corporation or an organization. We'll be treated like a government, as a provincial government would. So it really sets a different foundation of our relationship back and forth with Canada, but it really sets the stage for a great opportunity for future planning, future assurances that our citizens are going to get services that they should receive like Canadians in this country.
There is, of course, also some references to land in this modern-day treaty, which has raised some concerns from First Nations. Can you talk about that?
Well, Ontario First Nations, I think, have legitimate concerns. Actually, we support the First Nations in Ontario. We without a doubt, make it very clear. And as you know, that's why I left the Métis National Council back in 2021. My people advised me in 2019 that the Métis Nation Ontario brings all of these new people that aren't historic Métis people. We will leave the Métis National. Even though we helped develop it in 1983, we formed it. And so it's dear to our hearts. It's one of the most principal challenges we're facing right now. And you know, even Riel had that vision that his greatest fear that we'd be swarmed from inside. And so the First Nations in Ontario, I think, have a legitimate claim on what they're doing. Now, of course, without doubt, no one can ever challenge the Métis in the prairies. We built this province. We negotiated the first treaty in 1870. We supported and actually put in our advancement to Canada in 1870 under Louis Riel that treaties need to be established with the First Nation. And Treaty 1 comes in 1871, a year after our discussions with Canada. So it's very clear, without doubt, Section 35 rights of the Métis are assured without doubt by the Supreme Court of Canada on the Red River Métis and the prairie. So that's not a question. And I don't think First Nations here will want to challenge that. If they did, well, of course, you know me, Dennis, you know our government will defend ourselves very vigorously in any action that or claim made against us, because we can prove our history, our connection to the homeland, and our development of the homeland. So That's not even a question, but I don't think you're going to see that, Dennis, not in Manitoba. We have a solid relationship with so many chiefs and councils. We have a working relationship, a respect relationship, and we both have rights, and we both know it, and we have to respect each other.
Just very quickly here, President Chartrand, assuming that, like you say, there's overwhelming support for this, that it is ratified on the weekend, what's the next step?
Once this thing is passed by us on June 3rd and 4th, which it will, there's not a doubt, given the fact of the overwhelming support, it goes then to our assembly in September, where either the Prime Minister himself or the Minister will be coming, probably Minister Miller, coming to sign in front of the people in September. Then he will then take it back to Parliament, and they'll vote for it in the fall. Once it's voted upon, it becomes, of course, legal, binding in Canada, and protected by the Constitution. It gets its royal assent, and it becomes law in Canada.
President Chartrand, we'll have to leave it there, but good luck with the weekend. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dennis.